Your kid comes home from camp or from yeshiva, and he's very unhappy. You got to do something about that. And it doesn't matter what's making him unhappy. Unhappy is not acceptable.
Does this go for husbands too?
One thing at a time. I don't know, there should be a law. In any school, if a kid comes out of school upset, you should be able to sue them for abuse. They abused your kid. You sent a happy kid, and he came back miserable.
They're losing business.
It would be all over. But it shouldn't be acceptable. Should not be acceptable even for a day. What do you mean your kid came home unhappy? So now we found a scapegoat. Bullies. That's what makes children unhappy. They're being bullied. Does the bully come home happy at least? Is anybody happy? So somebody said, okay, now the whole society is going to bully the bullies. Because we're all bullies. This is not a solution. The problem is not bullies. Unless, if there is a bully, then you can identify the problem and fix it. But it's not. The whole atmosphere is an unhappy one. It's not acceptable. And that's why we look forward to the summer, because when a kid goes away to camp or to yeshiva's kayitz, this miserable kid suddenly becomes happy. Every day he's happy. So he is capable. If a kid comes home from camp unhappy, you got to really check that out. What happened? So, principle number 1. There is nothing good about being miserable. It's not part of chuva. It doesn't lead to chuva. It's not part of being FRUM. It's not part of Yiddishkeit. It's not part of Kedusha. It's totally unacceptable. It should not be. To put it in controversial terms, better to be happy about your sins than miserable over your mitzvahs. So don't tell anybody. But if your daughter is just happy and thrilled to be wearing not such tzniyazdika clothes, before you tell her to change her clothes, tell her how glad you are to see her happy. Don't throw away the good with the bad. So if you're going to start talking to her about tzniyas, and that's going to make her unhappy, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. You have a happy kid. Why do you want to ruin that? Oh, she should be happy about chitas. Not about her outfit. Okay. What are you going to do about that? Make her miserable? It doesn't work. It doesn't move her to a better place. So anytime your child is happy, enthusiastic about anything, enjoy it. Tell her you're thrilled to see her so happy. And then teach her how to be happy about better things.
How do we do that? We have to be happy also?
You have to be happy yourself? It would help. It's not very effective to miserably tell your kids to be happy. Or even to say, your happiness is making me miserable. The children's happiness should never make you miserable. It's a good thing, according to the Alter Rebbe and according to Chabad Hasidus. Let's put it again in different words. You're not allowed to sin. You're really not allowed. But there's more to you than your sins. So the Alter Rebbe again says in Tanya, it's true you're bad. You're very bad. Not the worst, because that's arrogant. Can't be the worst, but you're very bad. That's one part of the story. The other part of the story is the Eibishter invited you into his palace. Should you put on a smile and go? Or should you sit and be miserable because you're bad? There are two parts to us, the godly soul and the non-godly soul. The non-godly soul is what it is. We know what it is. It's a non-godly soul. The godly soul. So where did we get this impression that the two souls are equal? I'm 50% godly and 50% sinful. And one more sin, and I am mostly sinful. Well, that's a depressing thought. How did we get there? It's not correct at all. It's not 50-50. You have a godly soul, which is everything, and then you have this annoying little thing called a Yetzer Hara that is miserable and terrible. But what kind of comparison? In fact, why is anything the Yetzer Hara wants, why is it bad? What's bad about it? The godly soul doesn't like it. So it's certainly not 50-50. It's 90% godly soul, and then the 10% that is an annoyance that you have to kind of work around or stop it, but you are half bad, half good. Rambam says we should always think of ourselves as half bad, half good, and the next one, that's in terms of performance, not in terms of what you are. So if you discover that you have a Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara is really nasty and bad, you're going to be miserable? Let it be miserable. You're going to lose all the enthusiasm of the 90% of your godly soul over the 10% Yetzer Hara. It's not right. It's not right. Wait, there's more.
Maybe if someone, let's say, in Chal Shabbos, something like that, or so, and he's happy, so you can tell him, you're happy because of that? I mean...
He's happy because he was Mechal Shabbos?
He's Mechal Shabbos and he's happy.
Yeah, so the happy is good.
Then he's Mechal Shabbos and he's okay?
No. No, but don't tell him that if he wants to stop being Mechal Shabbos, he has to become miserable. Stop being happy. That's the first step. No. Don't ever stop being happy. But keep Shabbos. It's like saying, look, you're happy, it's wonderful. Now, can you do something to make the Eibishter happy too? Or are you all selfish? If a girl is happy, I say, okay, fine, great. Now you got your life together. You fry it out. You do whatever you want. You're happy. You want to do something to make your mother happy? No. No. What kind of answer is that? A guy asked me, what can I do to make my mother happy? I'm not FRUM. I'm not. But what can I do to make her happy? I said, well, don't shave. A lot of people who are not FRUM have beards, so don't shave. He says, no. I said, okay, I see already. You really want to make your mother happy. I said, how about if you say chitas? If your mother finds out that you say chitas, it'll make her very happy. He says, let's see, Chumash, maybe. Tehillim, Tanya, no. I said, you're not very devoted to your mother over here. So why not? Be happy and do something to make somebody else happy. What? That's asking too much? So the Alter Rebbe says something even further. It's not just that your Yetzer Hara is only 10% of who you are. Who created the Yetzer Hara? You did. The Eibishter created a Yetzer Hara, and he gave you a Yetzer Hara. I think he knew that you might actually listen to your Yetzer Hara once in a while. He knew that. He knows that. But he did it anyway. So, what's the point? The point is, if once in a while you choose him over the Yetzer Hara, makes him very happy. But you're walking around saying, I don't want a Yetzer Hara. I'm embarrassed to have a Yetzer Hara. You didn't create yourself. You're supposed to have a Yetzer Hara. You don't understand why? Fine. So learn, you'll find out. Don't learn. What's the difference? You're supposed to have a Yetzer Hara. You want to be better than God? If we got that cleared away, if we simply had a happier home, a happier community, a happier street, so many good things would happen. But we're afraid. Because if you do something bad, you should be miserable. It just sounds right.
We're miserable because we're stuck. And we feel like we're moving forward.
Well,
Not
if
because we're worried about our sins.
The biggest misery, the worst misery, is the religious misery. Even for non-religious people. The conscience, the guilt, it's the worst. Not being able to pay your bills and worried about it doesn't compare. So the Chiddush, the revolution of Chassidus is, you have no reason to be miserable. Stop it. But I did an Aveda. So you did an Aveda. What do you think? You're the first one? You want a medal? It's not impressive. You did an Aveda. You did 2 Avedas, 10 Avedas. Who cares? We have something so valuable to do. We have something so important. You're going to let an Aveda get in the way. Yeah, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. But even if you did do it. So that's it? The whole train has to stop because there's a mouse on the track? It's not a good example. You'd probably say yes. A mouse, that stops everything. But do you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's completely out of proportion.
But then you don't take anything seriously. Oh, it's all good. Shouldn't I feel a little something?
You see?
Moment?
You see? You see? Okay, fine, I won't be miserable, but a little miserable.
Well, just for a moment.
Just to be Yetzer.
You should feel
Just to be
something when you just did something for a moment, something. Otherwise, nothing has any meaning.
Right. You should feel regret. Regret means chuva. Regret means I'm not doing it again. It doesn't mean miserable. Miserable means I'm going to do it again.
Okay, so you're allowed to feel regret.
Of course you feel regret.
But that doesn't feel good.
No,
when you're feeling regret.
it doesn't feel good.
Where do you define miserable and regret?
Regret is actually a symptom of being fully alive. I made a decision, I did it, I regret it, it was wrong, I'm not doing it again. It's flowing, it's moving, right? It's like the opposite of feeling stuck. But when you're miserable, without really regretting, there's no movement. You're stagnating. Regret is a movement. I tell you this very impressive Frierdiker Rebbe, when he came to America, was a very heavy smoker. And the doctor who came to give him his injections for the paralysis, they were friendly. It wasn't just an office visit. He would come, he would sit, the doctor. One time, this is back in the 40s, the doctor came, and they sat at the desk, Frierdiker Rebbe's desk, and the ashtray was full of cigarette stubs. And the doctor mentioned that the research seems to be indicating that smoking is actually dangerous. Later in the conversation, the doctor takes out a pack of cigarettes and offers the Rebbe a cigarette. Because everybody was still smoking, So he offers the Rebbe a cigarette. So the Rebbe says, I don't smoke. So he was like, the Rebbe said, you told me a half hour ago that it's not healthy, so I don't smoke. That's called regret. But if the Rebbe would say, really? You mean I have to stop? Can I have at least one cigarette? That's misery. The Rebbe says, if it's wrong, then it's out of the question. Then I don't smoke. Not I'll try to cut back, I'm a smoker, but I'll no. Done. I don't smoke. Which leads us to another thing. The reason we're miserable about our failings is not because we failed, but because we think of ourselves as a failure. Everybody can handle making a mistake. You come home and you tell your husband, I made such a mistake, I blew it, it's going to cost a lot of money, it's a mistake. Whatever it is, it's over. But if you start feeling that you're a mistake, this is me, I am an ugly, nasty, that's miserable. When the Rebbe said, I don't smoke, it means I am free. It's the real Bechira. I am free to give myself whatever identity I want. No matter what happens, I have Bechira. And Bechira means I can identify myself any way I want. Now sometimes that seems like a chutzpah. A person doesn't do anything right, doesn't do anything that they're supposed to do, doesn't keep any of the minhagim, and calls himself a chassid. And you think, yeah, you're a chassid. You're a chassid. Did you do this? Did you do that? No. So you think, what a chutzpah. A person can be so unchassidish and yet call himself, not just call, he really thinks of himself as a chassid. It may be a chutzpah, but it's a very important, healthy thing. You're always free to identify yourself whichever way you want. Nobody can take that away. So the Frierdiker Rebbe, again as an example, is sitting in a Soviet prison. What is it? What do they do to you in a prison? They make you their prisoner. right? He mentions in the diary, they take away your name and give you a number. You are now a number. A human being has bechira. You can burn the number on my arm. I'm me. I'm not a number. I have a number. I'm locked in your jail. I'm eating your food. And I'm wearing your clothes. And I walk around in your yard. And I'm not part of this at all. I don't belong here. This is not me. I'm somebody else. And nobody can take that away from you. When you start to buy into it, yeah, I'm a prisoner, I'm locked up, I'm a number, I've been reduced, now you're miserable. So the fact that a person can do all sorts of nasty things and still call himself a chassid, it's a good thing. I mean, he's not right. But the fact that he can do it, that's very good. It's very good. The Rebbe says, who am I? What am I? Well, I used to be a smoker. But now I am a non-smoker. I've changed my identity. And when I change my identity, I'm not going to suffer that I can't have a cigarette. I'm not a smoker. So when you decide that you're going to be good, it's not the result of some miserable process. That's called true regret or chuva. Chuva means the person that used to do whatever, eat non-kosher or work on Shabbos, that person doesn't exist anymore. I keep Shabbos. And that happens in a second. I mean, to what degree you keep Shabbos, that's a different story. But who are you? Well, I'm a Shomer Shabbos. When did you become a Shomer Shabbos? 5 minutes ago. That is real bechira, and that's real tshuva. So the Rambam says, a real tshuva means the Eibishter will testify that the person who once sinned doesn't exist anymore. That person's gone. Now there's a different person. What happens to a child who feels guilty is not the particular Aveda. It's interesting too. A kid grows up in a FRUM environment and then is Machal Shabbos. Doesn't bother him. Doesn't bother him. So how can that be? How can that be? How could you not be upset that you were Machal Shabbos? Part of the answer is, when your kid is keeping Shabbos, does it ever occur to him that he is a Shomer Shabbos? Does he ever introduce himself, hi, my name is Mendel, I'm Shomer Shabbos? No. He doesn't identify himself as a Shomer Shabbos. When he's Machal Shabbos, he doesn't identify himself as a Machal Shabbos. So his identity didn't change. Maybe it should, but it didn't. So he doesn't see the big deal. In some way, our children don't think of themselves as FRUM. They just are. So when they don't do things that FRUM people are supposed to do, doesn't bother them. Anybody else in a different community, oh, you did that. Ah, so you're not FRUM. And that might bother them. By us, what do you mean I'm not FRUM? I was FRUM? I used to be FRUM? I was never FRUM. So nothing's changed. Unless a person, a bacher or a girl decides, I am going to stop keeping Shabbos. I'm going to become a Mechalel Shabbos. But then that's what he wants to be. That's his new identity. He's happy. When is this misery supposed to set in? So, your identity can either make you or break you. So a kid does an Aveda, whatever the Aveda is. If he can maintain himself, I am me and I did something terrible, then either he'll do chuva or he won't do chuva. He'll apologize, whatever. He will not be miserable. But if he identifies with the sin, I'm ruined, I'm broken, I'm damaged, I'm ugly, that's miserable. That's miserable. It's harder for a boy than for a girl to change identity. It's easier for a woman to identify herself one way and a day later identify herself differently. Where's the proof? You had a maiden name. And then one day, you became Mrs. Somebody. Your identity flipped. And it's perfectly okay with you. It's much harder for a man to do it. So when a bacher feels identified with his Aveda, it's rough. It's much easier to say to a girl, okay, fine, you did the Aveda, now you stop doing the Aveda, you're back to yourself again. Don't identify with the sin. But for both boys and girls, it is so important. It doesn't matter what sin you did, you're still you. And if you're a Lubavitcher, then you're still a Lubavitcher. Okay, you're not a good Lubavitcher, but you're a Lubavitcher. And the proof is, if somebody were to ask the Rebbe, who are your Chassidim? Would he point to you? Yes. So if he thinks you're his chassid, how can you not be? So are you a good chassid? No. You're a lousy chassid. But you're a chassid. I don't know if this is a good example. Your kid comes home from school and says, everybody tells me that I'm ugly. I have an ugly nose. What do you say? No, you have the cutest nose in the world. Look at that perfect little nose. Oh. And the kid knows you're lying because there's a mirror in the house. So what do you say? I'm not sure you have to say it in these words, but basically you have to give the message, I love your ugly nose. In other words, ugly or not ugly, you're still you. You're still my nachas, my angel, whatever. Not because you don't have an ugly nose. So what if you have an ugly nose? You're my ugly nose. Don't change your identity over your nose or anything else. That would give children such a strong defense against things that go wrong, that can go wrong, that usually go wrong. So if a kid comes home and says, the kids, we were playing and we found matches and we burnt down the yeshiva. not that dramatic. But we were playing with matches and we burned something and it caught fire and it did some damage. Oh, that's a terrible thing to do. Does that change your identity? So now you're a pyromaniac? You have a new title in yeshiva now? Now you're the fire boy? You're still you. Kid comes home and says, I was involved in something really not sneeze. Not good. But who are you? You're not you anymore? Chassidus says, don't change your identity. Af al pi shechata. You're still a Jewish boy, you're still a chassid, you're still mine, which is the most important part of it all. And don't play with matches no more. Don't go there, don't do that. But if a child becomes identified with the misbehavior, that's misery. That's damaging, that's dangerous. So if we give children a strong identity, then we're protecting them from a lot of misery. Shalom Aleichem. How are you? You know, I do a lot of talking, a lot of Zooming, many classes, many subjects, but that's all formal stuff. Hopefully good stuff, but formal. We also have a Wednesday night meeting that's more informal and kind of Hamish. If you want to join us for that kind of an event, interactive, time for questions and so on, if you want to join us for this side of conversation, click on the link below and join us every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Well, maybe not every Wednesday night, but we try to make it every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, a more informal chat, which can be more enjoyable at times than the formal stuff. So check it out. Click on the link and join us. Try it, you'll like it.